Meeting. Defense Research Agency now, and she's working on food preparedness.
And so, they don't have sound online. What changed?
Okay.
Did you change anything?
No. Is this? Do we have to press this one? No, it's okay. Good. So welcome to Rebecka. Well, thank you so much. Well, I will not say a lot about our joint project. I will just talk a little bit in general about food system resilience and how it sort of frames my different projects. So you will get a expose of different projects I do, but very shortly. So it's just like scraping a little bit on the surface. And then if we have time, I'm very happy to answer questions and talk more, of course. And as Ashley said, I'm a researcher at the Swedish Defence Research Agencies. I've been there for a year now, but I'm also affiliated to my old home, the Royal Institute of Technology. So I'm both in both places. But as you see, I used a PowerPoint presentation format from FOI, which is the short name for this Defence Research Agency, and it looks very military, which it is. So I'm sorry about that, but it's we do a lot of research on civil defense. So that's where the part where I'm sort of active in this research agency. So which one do I press to get here? Yes, so I just wanted to, I will not talk about this picture, but it's just, I want to say that the point of departure for me is the food system, and many of you also. So we don't have to get into detail, but it's just to show that we need to take account of everything to talk about some things in the food system in a meaningful way, in my view. So in every part of the system, there are power issues, there are inequalities or issues, there are environmental issues and social issues, and from the whole value chains, from farm to fork, and the whole disposal, the waste management. There's a lot of drivers for this system and a lot of outcomes, and some of them are really useful because we need food, and some of them are less useful, so they have to be taken care of. And as you know, the food system is responsible for, I think, a third of climate change, and all of the distortments of the phosphorus and nitrogen flows in the Earth system. and it's responsible for a lot or a large part of the extinction of species. So the biodiversity issues are huge, and so on and so on and so on. So agriculture and the food system is a huge driving force for a lot of bad things. But we need to eat, and it can be transformed into a force for a lot of good things. So just to illustrate that again, with all this, I don't know how well you see it, but it's like trying to illustrate a lot of different trends that interact and interfere with each other and are interrelated, and also connected to different shocks we can be experienced. So the huge trend is, of course, climate change, which the food system impacts, but also is a great impact on food system and the food production abilities. We have the large-scale system. We have food as a commodity where consumers and producers are disconnected, both geographically, but also like in our heads, like we don't understand where the food comes from. So we don't know, we can't assess if the food is good or bad for the world. We have this homogenization of food cultures, which is not only good because we tend to eat, we choose the fatty, sugary, animal fatty stuff rather than the healthy, vegetarian, good things that we could, So that's, very hegemonic. And there's a lot of concentration in all types of food systems, like in the seed companies, in the retail sector, in the wholesale sector, and so on and so on. So fewer people and fewer companies have a lot more power than they used to be. And then, of course, we have the environmental issues, large-scale monocultures, pest problems that they, give rise to, and so on. And also, the last picture, which for me is a news picture, we have antagonistic threats to food production and food security. Like we have, if we look at, for example, the war on Ukraine, Russia is deliberately using disinformation, but also, material, like hindering Ukraine to produce their food and to export their food. And also with disinformation, they spread rumors that the food is unsafe and so on. So it's a huge thing, and in the food sector we're not used to being handling these kinds of threats, like cyber attacks or something. It's something that we know that happens to energy companies or to high-tech companies or to state authorities, but not the food sector. But now it's more common in the food sector as well. So the question is, what do we want? We want so many things from the food system, and it's not always easy to get, agree on what values are the most important, because they are different. There are apples and pears and bananas here. So you have to decide what is most important. Is it we want to create jobs? We want to have a socially just food system. We want to have good incomes for farmers. Yeah, but we also want environmental issues to be, good. We want biodiversity. We don't want to impact the climate negatively. We want animal welfare. That's very important, at least for people in Sweden. And the open landscapes was also a Swedish feature. We love our open landscapes, which means then, the openings of the forest. Everything is forest, but sometimes it opens up and it's agriculture. So that's what we love. And that's also what that creates high biodiversity, these mosaic landscapes. And we also want nutritious food and enough food and appropriate food for all at all times in all events. So we want everything. So how do we talk about this? There's so many words, concepts we can use. We talk about sustainable food systems and food production and consumption. I tend to talk about food system resilience. We in Sweden now, we talk a lot about food preparedness, which is like sort of a heading below resilience, I would say. We can also talk about contingency planning, things that we do when we plan to do when there's a crisis of some sort. Food sovereignty, which I can't pronounce, so I won't say it again. But it's about justice. It's about the rights of people and food cultures and the right to your food culture. Food security, of course, is the overarching. We need food, but it has to be, right. I mean, the right type of food at the right amounts to the right people. And food democracy is also a way to talk about it. So there's so many words. So that we can talk about that for an hour too, but I won't. So I'll just go on. I'll just say something short about the relationship between resilience and sustainability. This is not my idea, but I think it's often we talk about them as interchangeable, and you can, but you could also separate them like this if you like. So you can talk about sustainability as a capacity to preserve a system in the long term. And you can talk about resilience as a capacity to, over time, to be able to cope and adapt to disturbances and maybe transform in the face of disturbance to something better. So you need the whole message here is that we want both. It's not enough to build up. Well, you might say it's enough to build a sustainable food system because then it might be resilient. But if you only talk about preparedness or resilience in the short term, you might lose sight of the long-term sustainability issue. So the time scale is important. And it's important, I think, to find the synergies between sustainability issues like biodiversity, climate change mitigation, and so on, soil health, and how do you say that? Healthy soils that can produce food, not to deplete them or put them full of, smash a lot of chemicals on them, because in the end, you won't be able to produce any food in the long run. But if you want to produce a lot of food in the short run, that's what most our countries do at the moment. We put a lot of we use machinery, we should use water, we use hybrid breeds, we use fertilizers and chemicals to make these high harvests. But in the end, then maybe we put the whole production at risk in the long term. So that's why, well, this is very framed from the Swedish situation at the moment, but we talk a lot about preparedness. And it's very often in the government way of talking about it is very short term. So the main policy now is to increase production and to make stockpiling, like large storehouses where we stockpile food for the war scenario. But then they tend to forget that we have another scenario which is very likely to happen, which is it's happening as we speak. So that's climate change, but there's no preparation or adaptation to that because all the money goes to the war scenario. And war, of course, is extremely risky. It's a high risk, high impact event, but a low probability. Climate change, on the other hand, is 100% probability and also high risk. So this is one of the main messages we talk a lot about now in the debate, that you have to think about both things at the same time. You can't just be one-eyed in this. And I just wanted to say like how I deal with it as a researcher, not as a person, but as a researcher. So I just posed some questions, and I will tell you about the projects that try to answer these questions in my little world. And you have to tell me when I stop talking, because I didn't look now. How much time do we have? 20 minutes? Or yeah. So my first question is then, if there's such a big emphasis on production now, it's like we want more food is important. But then my question is, or a lot of other people's question is, like, how can we actually make use of the food that we already produce? We throw away a third of the food, and there's also we produce a lot of so-called side streams or waste streams that we could have eaten, but they now turned into biogas or to animal feed or even less worthy products. So that's plenty. That's a research center for some symbiotic and circular food provisioning that started up last year. So that's where we try to map out the side streams that there are in Sweden, at least in some form, what we can do with them and how we can make them into food again, and sort of put them higher up on the waste hierarchy, or as high up as possible, to make them, can they be made into food, or can they be made into supplements of food to make the nutrition value higher? For example, we have a huge deficit of, most people in Sweden eat far too little fibers in their daily diets. So can we put back the fibers somewhere? First, we raffinate them, the meat, the flour and everything, so it gets white and nice. But we need to put back the fibers in the products, or like use the fibers too, partly. And then we also look at symbiotic structures, like how can a food industry and a farm and a restaurant or a canteen or something, how can they be more symbiotic? How can they work more closely together and be one system? And it's a big center, so it's national, but it's a lot of actors involved. So KTH, my university, is the main actor here with some other universities and research institutes, and mainly the private sector, but also the public waste sector, so-called waste sector. Yeah, so I'll be happy to talk more about that if you want. But the second question then, on the more local level and less national level, is how on the municipal level. So how municipalities, how can they work with using a systems perspective in their governance for resilient food systems? It's not a task of Swedish municipalities to develop resilient food systems, but some of them think about this anyway. And the reason for this is that they have a lot of responsibilities in relation to food, but they don't have a food department. I mean, it's not in one place. So they have, for example, our responsibilities to offer free meals in kindergartens in schools, and they also have to offer meals in all types of public institutions like elderly care or homes for children that don't have parents and so on. So these are, I think, 3 million meals every day in Sweden. And some, they cook the food, but they don't produce the food. So they have to buy the food. So that's done on a different types of procurement processes, which is a huge issue. So it's a lot of volumes of food going through this channel. So that's a responsibility of the municipality. The municipality is also responsible for spatial planning. So it's a planning monopoly, it's called in Sweden, on the municipal level. So they decide if you use this land for agriculture, or if it's possible to buy storage facility, or a big Lidl or something. So they decide. So the exploitation of farmland is normally seen as great, to exploit because it's flat. It's nice. But that's also the discussion. And then the municipalities are also responsible for security issues, safety and security on the local level. And that also includes food. So if they can work integrated around this, they might have a lot of synergies and there might be, but you need new policies and new ways of working. So that's in two projects I work with. It's on the municipal level, how policies and planning can be integrated within the municipality. So how can they work together internally, but also how can they work with other actors, other municipalities, or the regional levels, or private actors or communities. So that's the main question in two. And in one of the first project, it's on a national level, and on the second one, we have a specific region we're looking at more closely. And where we also look more closely on the preparedness issues and this agricultural land issues in particular. So that's finishing up during next year. We have 2 PhD students, and I hope some publications coming out, like in a bottle of ketchup, very soon. Yes, and then we have the project we have together here with Turkey and Taiwan and Thailand and Germany and Sweden and the US. Did I forget someone? No. So it's the co-creation of sustainable food supply chains through cooperative business models and governance. I will not say that again either. But the main question for me in this and us is what the role then is for local and regional value chains for developing resilient systems. So it's food system. So it's the municipalities are part of this too, but the perspective is from the value chain rather than the municipality. So what we do in Sweden, in the Swedish case study, is looking at one municipality. It's called Södertälje. How the governance they do can help support local and regional value chains, and also how development of a bioregion or eco-district can be a positive force in this direction if they have a role to play here also. So we don't know the answer yet, but it's this municipality is very progressive and forward-leaning. So we think they have some lessons that we can learn from. So last now, I'm sorry, I'm talking too slow. It's moved. Did you see the movement? It was different. Yeah. It's I don't know why. This animation makes it own. Yeah. You want to see it again? No. No. Oh, sorry. So here in this plate is a second research center I'm part of. And there the main question is how the food service sector can become more resilient and contribute to resilience in the food system. And there we have just started also last year. And we have different work packages. And my work package is also evolving around the value chain. So from the suppliers and their providers. And we have these 5 sort of principles that have to be met to make it, a value chain that we want to look at. So it's environmental issues, health issues, preparedness, and competitiveness and taste. So they all have to fit into a meal to be resilient, we think. And we have this, the first report is called Recipe for Resilient Meals, where one of the researchers have tried to put together all the existing knowledge already that we can find in the literature about what is a resilient meal. So it's available in English too, and it's on this homepage, plateresearch.org, if you want to look more. And we also have a bunch of partners, and here it's the Stockholm University, that's the lead partner. That's, this is my email address if you want to contact me. Thank you. I'm sorry, but it's too late.
And after Ivan's presentation, we'll have some time for questions.
Perhaps
Right now?
Unless there are any questions.
Any questions now for Rebecka? We can do both at the end.
Yeah. Oops.
Okay.
Yeah, question.
Next.
Yes,
I
please.
just have a detailed question.
Please.
Yeah. Part, but I was interested in the food waste. Well, not the waste, but using the remains, the scraps for upward streaming and food production. You said some examples with fiber. Do you have maybe some examples? Are there any sort of successful models already existing in Sweden where they might have taken things up to the market or?
No, it's a lot of, we can talk about that a long time. It's so easy to talk about, and everyone sees the logic. Like, obviously, there are a lot of side streams, especially in the food industry where they are collected already. They are there, it's in large volumes. It's hard to collect them if they're spread out. But in the food industry, which still exists, there are food waste streams that you can use to put back into the food system. But then when you start working on it, it's so hard to know. I mean, it's the hygiene, it's the properties if they go bad, and how can you and it's a taste, of course, and texture, and what types of products you do. So there's more questions than answers. Sorry. But my part is looking at a region. It's an island called Gotland. I don't know if you know about Gotland. It's an island in the Baltic Sea. So it's a very easy system in that sense because it's an island. So it's isolated in the sense. And they have a lot of production of different, it's an agricultural area, but also then a lot of waste, of course. I mean, side streams. For example, they produce a huge amount of carrots, and all the carrots that are not straight are just go to fodder or to biogas. So how can you make an economy with not straight carrots without competing with yourself? Because you also have the straight carrots. So you want to sell both. And people who are consumers, they think, oh, if I get the not so nice ones, they should be for free, because otherwise they were just being thrown away. But they're not for free because it's a job to collect them and to clean them and to blah, blah, blah. So you need to find other types of value chains for these types of products. But we're still on it.
Someone asked me from the outside if you can see the recording afterwards. Are there any?
We are recording.
Yeah, we're recording. I'll put it up on our YouTube. Yeah, for the project of the COAS FSC. Okay, next we have Professor Aylin Topal. She is a professor in the Department of Political Science and Public Administration at Middle East Technical University. Her research focuses on the political economy of sustainable development, and today she will be talking about potentials and risks of urban community gardens in Turkey, case studies from Ankara, Izmir, and Istanbul. So welcome.
Hello. I'm trusting that everyone online can hear me well. Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much. I should begin with my gratitude. It is great to be here again. I had the privilege to hang out in this institution in 2022 summer, and appreciated the transdisciplinary environment, the scholarly environment in this institution. And it was the kickoff. I came here for the kickoff meeting of our project, co-SFSC. And I am here this time for the write-up collaboration with my project partners. And I think I should particularly thank Pia for invitation and for the neat organization of the visit, including this event. And without further ado, this is the title of my talk. And this is a collective manuscript with more, writing. I am not the leading author, but I will be presenting. The leading author is Işıl Servetoğlu. I trust she's following me. She's now here in the audience, and she should feel, welcome anytime, she feels necessary. Işıl and I work very closely at Middle East Technical University. She wrote her master's thesis under my supervision, and she's also continuing with her PhD at METU, and we are working on her thesis together. So I and the other names are our project colleagues. We are together working on the project, and we are with differing inputs, of course, with differing level of inputs. It is natural working on this project as well. So this will be an offspring of the project. It may not be at the exactly the center of it, the community gardens, because our project is at the center lie cooperatives. But as we were, doing our field work in different cities, we have, become involved with different community gardens. And as you do the field work in different settings, you feel like, you should write something about it. And also the project has a very strong emphasis on democratization of food regimes and, participatory governance, etc. So those emphases are also there. So this article could, or it could be within the deliverables of the project or not. So depending on what we feel like, but we felt that we should write about it as we feel more obliged to writing as with our field work. Okay, I guess it is changed. Yeah, okay. All right. So the urban community garden can be described as a plot of land within the urban area. So that is cultivated, maintained collectively or individually by a group of people for growing plants, including food, flowers, or other vegetation. So this land is identified, one, by its location in urban environment, two, by the accessibility to a group of people, three, with its use as gardens. Okay, so apart from that, nothing qualifies the definition of urban community gardens. And the community formation could develop bottom up, top down. It would be individual collective mobilization. the management would be, different management sort of forms could take different forms. So these are the minimalistic. Those three aspects are the minimalistic definition of urban community garden. Have I changed it? Yes. Okay. So, and since the 1970s, there has been a lively debate with regards to whether urban community gardens are spaces of sustainability, solidarity, and resistance for different hazards, different problems, issues such as climate crisis, food insecurity, urban inequalities, urban poverty, right? So there is this side on one hand. And there's also a discussion, the other side of the discussion, the debate is whether the urban community gardens are spaces of reinforcing neoliberal, policy framework, and so there is this reproducing the inequalities, already existing inequalities, whether it is creating new rent-seeking regeneration, gentrification, right? So there is also that kind of a debate, from the beginning of the urban community gardens. So there is this debate ongoing on both sides, and there are still articles, projects produced more or less on each side of the debate. So it has not come to a conclusion, come to a general agreement, we perceive. It is probably because the answer is yes and no. The answer is the both. Okay, so the literature shows very convincing examples on both sides of the debate. Right, so we can find enough cases to prove the argument, one argument, and we can find enough cases for the rival answer. Right, so the situation is almost like an impasse. Right, so between those two rival answers of the debate, because the urban community gardens have both limitations and potentials. And urban community gardens have really, the different forms. It takes different forms, because what qualifies urban community gardens, as I said, are just those three criteria. The rest lies into empirical variations of the cases. Therefore, we have the puzzle, right? So exactly, this is what I meant, that the urban community gardens are not uniform, and they have, they have this contradictory nature in different contexts. Okay, but even saying this is not solving our puzzle. Our empirical puzzle, it is not solving with regards to then, okay, how do we judge, how do we evaluate the urban community gardens? So that leaves us with a literature, with a gap, right? And this is probably our motivation to write something up, right, on this topic. The gap in the literature is a nuanced analysis, or it is perhaps not completely absent, but we have to produce more and more to qualify it and to have a more nuanced analysis of under what conditions the urban community gardens could be ecological, democratic, inclusive, welfare generation spaces, and conversely, under what other conditions community gardens are forms of land grabbing, exclusive, disempowering, generating new vulnerabilities. Right, so that is the gap we need to fill, or we need to try to fill. Right. Okay, so such questions call for a comparative analysis. Right, if you focus on a case, you will have, a detailed analysis of one case, and you will probably, not be able to show the causalities, right? You will probably not be able to sort of abstract those relationships between different factors and how they affect each other in different contexts. So for that, we have already done it. We have visited different contexts, and while visiting different contexts, then you get to, in that one they had this, and this one they had this. So your mind, almost naturally, by our way of understanding reality, compares and contrasts and tries to get the conclusions as a result of these comparative analysis. And this is what we need to do and what we will be doing in this study. To my knowledge, the most sophisticated, it's too analytical at times, and it makes us, makes our case a bit, sort of difficult. But the most sophisticated comparative framework is developed by John Stuart Mill. So you may be surprised if you don't know that he has this sort of framework. You may be, sort of feeling that, Mill has also worked on these methodological issues. Yes, he has. And it is he called it logic of comparison, two logics of comparison. And here he proposed, if I walk this way, am I being out of sight? Okay. So he proposed two logics. One is a method of agreement, the other one is method of difference. So in the method of agreement, the cases are very different from each other. Right? So you focus on two cases, and those two cases are radically different from each other in terms of its context, in terms of many of the factors they have. But surprisingly enough, they have an agreement in the consequence. They have a sort of, some results are, puzzlingly similar. Despite everything else, despite all the other differences, the conclusions, the results, the results are surprisingly similar. So then you are asking, and you are, trying to search what are those, despite all those differences, what are the factors that are common, so that we can find out the causal relationship between those factors that are common, despite all those differences, and the result, right? So this is the method of agreement. So don't get confused. These are two different cases, right? And the conclusion is, or the results are similar. And the other method of difference, these are, again, you're comparing two different clusters of cases, or two cases. There you have very similar conditions, very similar cases, but the results are different. And it is also, you're asking how, okay, despite all those similarities, how come we have different results, right? So then what you search for, your endeavor as a researcher, is to find the differences despite all those similarities. So you eliminate all the similarities and you try to find the differences, so that explains the different results in those similar cases. So I want to keep here, because it is really nice, especially if you are comparing three cases, right? You could do one method of agreement and one method of difference, and it would be very nice, comparative framework. But it is very difficult to do it, right? So it looks very nice on paper. It looks very nice theoretically, conceptually. So this project I should also say, this is an ongoing writing up sort of process. So I wanted to keep it in mind, my mind and my team's mind, so that if it fits our case, right? So at the moment we are comparing kind of three different contexts. So it will be probably method of agreement. It will be falling in between there. But I just wanted to have it in the presentation, so that it is a nice idea, and also for us to explore further in the coming weeks. We want to complete the piece as soon as possible. Okay, so all right. So what we are doing in this case, in this paper, we are comparing 3 different cases of urban community gardens. One from Ankara, one from Izmir, and one from Istanbul. So having them in the same country gives us certain factors constant, so that we can deal with the differences, and we can deal with the how, to what extent, under what conditions community gardens could have as I listed those favorable results, and under what conditions community gardens produce new vulnerabilities and new inequalities. In order to have such sort of analysis, you need to have some theoretical framework, right? And you need to have some new theoretical framework that enables you to see those sort of things. And we have we are sort of working on this commoning, right? And they are sometimes calling it communism, right? And communization. So there is this sort of, we have to work with the concept of commons, right? So that is our theoretical framework at large. So we have to talk about we have to do the urban community gardens are sort of can be easily considered within the commons literature. So that's what we are doing, and it is in that sense we are seeing the urban community gardens not only for food production, but also as commons, and where resources, social relations, and all those practices and governance processes are performed. So we will have to filter those cases from this theoretical or conceptual framework. And with regards to commons, well, when one talks about commons, we have to talk about Hardin and Ostrom, right? The tragedy of the commons and governing commons. So on one hand, I don't think it is here. This is more like Ostrom, but as you know, Hardin has a very pessimistic sort of framework with regards to tragedy, such a strong word also, that using commons, sort of if individuals are self-centric, and if individuals are calculating their best interest, it will be a tragedy. Every individual will calculate their own sort of result, and it will be an unintended consequence of tragedy. But it is also inevitable and irreversible, right, from Hardin's point of view. But Ostrom reacts to it, and with her reaction, she also co-awarded to Nobel Prize, or well, it is not Nobel Prize, but Nobel's in the name of Nobel, right? The Nobel's Alfred Nobel did not have economics Nobel, but Swiss bank trusted a lot of money to the family, and they named the award for the Nobel Prize. Anyways, so she says, no, it doesn't have to be a tragedy, right? Because there are governing there are non-state governance practices. So we have to also theorize it, right? So it doesn't have to be a tragedy, because there are these paragraphs are inspired, if not direct quotation, from Ostrom. That's this. There are management issues. It is not necessarily unlawful, but it is. I like that one. It is in the margins of the loopholes of the law, right? So it is not. I mean, it is not unlawful, but law is not. What is law and what is like lawful and unlawful is a gray area sometimes, and sometimes there are some struggles in terms of what is lawful, what is unlawful, right? So those margins are perhaps the sort of some spaces of emancipation, perhaps, I'm just throwing it out, to talk more, right? So that I like that's margins of loopholes of law, because it will be relevant in our case. It will be relevant in our commoning practices, right? It will be a lot of contestation in terms of what is common, what is public, what is private, right? So that's these are the concepts. It's not a state, it's not a sort of frozen, stagnant, stable concept, common, isn't it? What is common and what is not is historically has been changing, right? We have from the 1980s onwards, we have a process of privatization. So the world is losing its commons. So we have to then, as I wrote on the subject of the slide, we have to historicize the notion of commons. So it is a dynamic concept. It is a process, right? And it involves social relations. It involves social practices. So these are the concepts: commoning, commonization. Like we have privatization, right? So we might have commonization, right? So that we should not perceive privatization as an irreversible process. And we should not sort of perceive the notion of public-private as a fixed categories. It is also a matter of contestation, what qualifies as public, what qualifies as private. So this is also, we need to open up some space for that history, and we need to open up some space for, sort of social actors, taking place in practice. So I have some quotations here from how we inspired in those ideas, in commoning, commonization, etc. Okay, I am too hyped up. How long am I have?
I'm thinking 2-3 more minutes.
Okay. Well, I think have I changed?
Yes. Gender theory.
Oh, yes. Oh, sorry. Yes, gender theory. Okay, yes. This is also one thing we have to do. So the commoning idea, okay, we have to historicize the theory, and we have to have a gendered perspective in the theory, right? So because if there is no community, there is no common. Right, so it is also this. We have to have the commoning perspective from a gendered perspective, because this idea of commoning, this idea of commons, will inevitably require social relations of production and reproduction relations, right? Social reproduction. And when we talk about social reproduction, when we talk about relations of production, then we are talking about also gendered relations, right? So it has to be here. We have to include whatever your concept is, even the theoretical framework of commoning is gender blind. We have to push it in, and it is not us. There are also others, sort of Federici, or also the others have also worked on it, and they have, sort of studied the commons, and they have studied urban gardening as well, in this context from the gendered perspective. So we also include that perspective in our theoretical framework. Okay, in the last 2 minutes, I have this.
You can take a little longer if you want.
Okay, well, it is more or less what I have. So I don't have time, and since I am not the person writing down all the details on the cases, but Işıl might answer you. I asked her if there is any question with regards to the details of the cases. We can come up with it. And we traveled to the 2 of those cases, and Ankara is where I live, so I am a little bit familiar with the case as well. So this is the table we have at the moment with regards to those 3 cases. I'm searching for what is John's third mill here, where is method of agreement, method of difference. Well, it is not here. I really wanted to share it with you and keep it in our mind as well. I don't know to what extent we will be really using those terms, but here we have come up with this sort of table, and the last law I think is important. It is the commoning story. How these urban community gardens have become a common space, and these different commoning stories will probably give us the criteria with regards to under what conditions we'll have, sort of the favorable results, and under what conditions we'll have new vulnerabilities, new inequalities, etc. So I want to, this one, the one in Ankara, has been a more bottom-up process. The land is in between public land and private land, because it is planned as a school, but school is not being built, so the owner cannot sell it, and the municipality does not use it. So it is a squatter area, squatter land. So a group from the municipality, they simply squatted. With here non-intervention, the municipality just looked to the other side. But it's more than that. Municipality gave enabled certain things. So it could be also a little bit of enabling municipality. We will have to decide by team, right? But then also the university. It is very near to my university. So the university connections is also a supporting environment. It gives that community a legitimate foundation, link with the scholars, with the students, with the professors. So it feels the supporting environment is really sort of supporting the practice. So this one is very top down. Municipality initiated the whole process, and it is regulated by the municipality. And the borders of what constitutes community is closed, defined, that means, by the municipality. And so it is a little bit of limited. There are the good things about it, but the results are quite, sort of mixed bag of things, perhaps because of those three different factors. Here, being bottom up is, I guess, whatever is bottom up, especially in these contexts, is really favorable, unless there are other things to support, right? Bottom up is also, sort of needs certain sources of power in symbolic and many other, non-symbolic ways, and power in the sense of political power from municipality, power in the sense of epistemological power from the university. It is not closed, right? It is right now the neighborhood, but whoever moves into the neighborhood is the neighborhood, right? Within the neighborhood, so it is not closed, right? So they are in a way more, sort of open to the whoever wants to use the land. And the third one is in Istanbul. It is in the it is one of the oldest community gardens of humanity. It is from Byzantium. Do we have them here? Yeah, it is from the Byzantium times, and it is historical. The path dependency takes place, of course. It was like that. So individual initiatives are preserving it, but it is curtailing municipality. Municipality is trying to sort of sell the place, have new regeneration, and not only regeneration but gentrification processes in the area. And it is closed community, so they have a fixed number of individuals owning and or using the land, and so it is no, as far as we know, no significant woman initiative. So it is our observations are the relations are a bit overwhelmingly patriarchal, right, in that context. So my last slide. My last slide is just to offer, sort of what are the favorable features of the urban community gardens. I forgot here the inclusive community, but gender, I myself, sort of did not write anything with regards to gender here, but, please, it should be here, but also it has to be more significant. It has to have its own bullet with regards to gender. So it has to be a bottom-up initiative, enabling context. It should be, municipality and or university. It is, the Ankara case is significantly showing that. And inclusive community, closed, but perhaps not closed, right? So it is, sort of open to new participations, not sort of fixed and strong, very rigidly defined definition of community. I guess that is all I have. All right, thank you so much.
Questions or discussion for either of our researchers?
Perhaps from there. I don't know. I'm not seeing anything on chat.
There's something that, I have a question, just also again the detailed question to these three examples. How large are the four groups approximately, and how and on the other hand, how much are they? How visible are they actually in the public view, or are they taken? Well, are they recognized in Turkey as a general, or is it a very local way of recognizing their existence?
The Ankara case is not that visible. Istanbul is a bit more visible. There are more scholarly articles. There are more discussions, in the news, in the public agenda, because of that, sort of gentrification, attempts from the municipality. It creates more of a sort of contentious from the civil society, from the ecology movements. It is weak, of course. You may be reading a lot of news from Turkey. So in addition to all those news, this is really disappearing very easily, forgotten very easily. So in terms of public agenda, I don't think they take that space, strongly. The Izmir cases, because of especially the former municipality is very much ardent in doing that. It was one of the mayor's own projects, or he was really politically, because it is the neighborhood is coming from the southeast regions of Turkey, mostly Kurdish community, and also Syrian in the 2000s, the Syrian immigrants. So it is, he had that political agenda in terms of inclusion, in terms of, cohabitance in many ways. So it was, in the news, in the local context, right? Not in the national context. So they're all, this is a very new development, rather new, right? In the past 10 years or so, new, right? So how big? The Çiğdemli is very small again. And Yedikule is a big one. It is around the Byzantium walls. Some of my colleagues have seen it. We have seen it. Izmir is also Izmir is also a large plot of land, previously a squatter housing area, and 2 municipalities ago, 2 mayors ago, all those squatter houses were cleared up, and they moved to more affordable state-built houses. And that area was, was not used 15 years ago. But later on, the municipality wanted to open up that area for the garden, for community gardening. It has a very high slope, So they did not want to use it for other purpose, and it created a very. It's a nice gesture, if you ask me, with regards to because now the former residents of those land as a squatter housers are using those land as gardens. For instance, we met in our fieldwork. We met a lady. She said this tree. Her plot was near a tree. This tree was in my garden, in my squatter housing. So it is a nice gesture from the municipality in terms of turning this very conflictual land into less conflictual, or even perhaps not conflictual land in terms of the use of it. Because considering what is happening in the other parts of Turkey, that land could easily be, high rise and sort of a very luxury housing, but they did not do it. Rather, they opened it as community gardens. Municipality is still working there, and we are still working with them. It feels like it is going to continue. But the problem in this case is it is very much regulated by the municipality. It is not enabling enough. So there are good things. So it is not disabling, I argue, but it is not having the full potentials of what we think community gardens, what we think urban community gardens.
Other questions? Thank you, Eileen. I was wondering about the aspect of cooperative state. Are they related to it, or are they willing to maybe cooperate with the cooperative or get this state, or what influence does it have on the economic aspect of community garden?
No. Here the last one is in Istanbul. It has economic aspect. They have the Gardeners Association. It is not a cooperative, but it is an association. Works as like a cooperative, and they are, I think, a dozen of, maybe not less than 2 dozens, more or less a dozen of gardeners holding that area. And they are producing greens, they are producing vegetables, different sort of greens, and they are selling it. So it is their livelihood. It is those who use that land is getting their income from those land. The other cases, they are not income generating land. Specifically, they're producing their salad greens, tomatoes, peppers, mainly in summer. As far as I know, in winter they are not producing anything. And in Ankara as well, it is literally a social community building around that idea of gardening. And so it is also not, and none of it is cooperative. Çiğdemim is also an association. So there is an associational civil society, like community building inspiration. The Istanbul one is for economic purposes. Ankara one is for social purposes, for social power and collecting. And Kadifekale, unfortunately, as I said, it is too bottom up. There is no what is the other one? Bottom up, top down. No, I said top down.
It's too
top down.
No,
there is no bottom up initiative to make any association, any cooperative, and it is what it is missing in this case. Indeed.
We have a question in the chat. London.
Yes. How do we do that? Andreas is in the chat. Don't think, because there should. Yeah, would be great. Yeah. And he's turning on his video. I'm not sure if we can.
I see
him.
Yeah, I see.
You see him, at least.
I do.
Can we hear him though? Yes, we can.
We take it louder.
Okay, let's try it.
Okay, let's try.
Can you hear me?
We
Hello?
can
Yes,
hear
we
you.
can hear you.
Okay, good morning. Thank you for your presentations. I would like to ask a question to Rebecka, if it's fit. When I heard about Gotland, I thought in one way, yes, it's obvious to use an island for this inquiry. On the other side, I remembered that recently Gotland became a hotspot of defense activities after Sweden joined the NATO. So in how far your studies are connected with this political issue?
Well, I would say almost not at all, but it's more connected to the fact that Gotland is one of the, I would say, provisioning places in Sweden for Stockholm. I mean, it's not the only place, of course, they produce a lot of food for the Stockholm area, but it's a lot of vegetables and especially carrots. And it's the only place in the region where the carrots get their own statistics. Otherwise, you don't see them. But the carrots are really there. So, I mean, of course, it's an even more urgent touch to it because it's military, yet the military is now bulking up on the island, but I don't think it's not part of the case study as such. And we don't only look at Gotland, we also look at other places. We just started there because we have a lot of actors involved in the center, and they can be sort of, most actors there they know of each other, so it's a low threshold to start cooperating around something, even if it will be hard anyway. But it's accessible in that sense. But I don't think the military build up is part of that. Even if maybe among actors there, it might be more an urgent issue than how to make this happen. So yes, maybe yes and no, but mainly no.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, thanks.
I have a question for you, Rebecka. These different centers or projects you mentioned, Plenty and Plate.
Great names.
Who came up with those acronyms? So
no, we did together. It was a pity they're both starting with P, so people tend to mix them up. But it's the same call that they were given granting.
So I'm wondering, so for example, for Plenty Center for Symbiotic and Circular Food Provisioning, that's so innovative, it's so great. Do you think that we're in a historical period where important, you said it's a public, private, and research sort of partners in this? Are we in a historical moment where people are starting to think about these things more seriously? Are you hopeful about this, or what's your assessment?
Well, it's great. Of course, a lot of people are interested, and a lot of food industries are interested too. Of course, obviously, they want to make more money, so why not?
Yes.
But maybe we can make a win-win out of it. But when you look at the practical and regulatory, and there's so many obstacles. Yeah. That's why it hasn't happened so far, of course. But now, at least we're working together now, and we have, for example, we have philosophers, we have engineers, and we have everything in between. So we hope to do something. We're doing scenarios. We are talking about consumer acceptance. Will they eat this, or the ethics around whatever you serve? Where do the products come from? What kind of origin do they have? And talking about waste streams or side streams, it doesn't sound appealing. It's nothing you want to pay for, and especially not pay more. But still, to get it back into the food, circularity, it costs a lot. You have to make an effort. The easy way is to just put it on a heap somewhere, or make biogas. That's easy. So that happens, and many people might be happy with that. So we're trying to make something that there's a lot of obstacles on the way.
Yeah.
But I have to say I'm hopeful. Yes, because it's a lot of things happening also. And a lot of goodwill, at least. So we will see after 4 years if people are fed up and disappointed.
Yeah, okay.
But there won't be like a nationwide transformation. Right. I don't think so. But it might be in certain areas and in certain industries.
Okay.
Yes.
sorry, another question. Joining Ashley on that. Do you also take into account the way of food waste or food remains back into soil? So in order to really close the circle, because I mean, you have the topic of soil health, which is the base for any food production and especially healthy food production in the long term. We found that here sometimes really hard to address at all. I mean, there are a couple of more ways to address this, but before we burn the remains, we might at least produce compost and put them back where they come from. Is that part of that?
Yeah, I mean, we have compost already because we make so much biogas, and then the remains, when you have taken out the biogas, there is a compost or whatever or something, but it's so contaminated. So the whole sewage system, the way it works now, you put everything into one, you put everything in one pot and it's contaminated, and also our food is full of heavy metals.
Yeah.
And we are full of heavy metals. So whatever we have not eaten is full of heavy metals, and also what comes out in the toilet is full of not only heavy metals, but other stuff that you can't clean out in the sewage plants. So you don't want to put that on so you need to rebuild the whole sewage system, which is due now because it's over 100 years old, most of it, but it's billions and billions and billions of euros, and it won't happen, I think. Yeah. We're just talking about the train, and it doesn't happen either. So no, we're not doing that. It's rather like on the technology side, because KTH is, I don't know, like a technical university has to do a lot of technology. So you ask the question, you can answer. So they look at how you can use waste streams to new food, but also to have pesticides that are not pesticides, but like how to use waste streams into so-called green pesticides, or to have fertilizers that are not mined or not, using natural fossil gas to capture, things like that, rather than putting it back on the soil, I would say. So it's not perfect, I would say, but these technologies it's incremental. It's not a transformational plate. The other one is more transformational. I would say plant is more small steps.
One thing I'll say on that point is I am aware there is a very small group of researchers trying to do bioremediation of these kinds of things in not just sewage, but composting, industrial composting, like using mushrooms and using different systems to separate things out. Wetlands, even a wetland that helps to remediate some of these things.
But there is research, of course.
The university, still, it's projects, it's model projects. It is going on, but it's really
and also different. Just make the clear difference between industrial measures of remediation versus there is a small number of researchers doing this like bio methods, which are cool to look at and maybe simplify.
Yes. Andreas again online, just
it's the same hand maybe like before. Please. Or it's the same, it's a new hand?
Yes, please.
Yeah. Talk. You have to unmute.
You're muted.
You're muted.
He's saying some
Andreas,
clever things.
you are muted. There you go. Okay.
There you go.
Sorry for that. Yes, I have a new question, a new hand, but I don't want to interrupt this discussion now. But then I would like to ask a question to Eileen afterwards. Yeah.
You do. We're over time anyway, I suppose.
Please.
How long are we doing? Okay, sorry. No.
Come on.
No, I can talk alone.
Here she comes.
Okay. Eileen, I wondered, did you also do research on the Cuban culture of community gardens, which had an important role in the food production over decades in La Havana.
Oh, Cuba.
Oh, actually not, Andreas.
Okay, that could be
I
a good.
I know about it. I actually did a little bit of field work there, but somehow it was many years ago when I was more Latin Americanist than the Turkish politics scholar. Yes, I will look into it and try to read my colleagues there, because I know there are articles produced in Spanish as well. Yes, thank you so much. And I don't know if you had more to say.
No, that was my question, because I remembered that it's a famous example of to some high degree well-working system of food production, of informal food production, informal in a way, but also a bit state fostered, let's say.
Yes, yes. We haven't for this paper. We haven't discussed and we haven't read particularly, but thank you for bringing that up, and we will take note, and we will include that literature, theoretical as well as empirical, insights.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry for not being on place there.
No, it's okay.
No, thank you for being there.
Yeah.
I also have a question to you regarding the gardens. You said it should be a condition should be bottom up, and I think it seems natural. But on the other side, is it really always so clear? Because, for example, in the Istanbul case, couldn't bottom up also lead to more closeness and like something, an initiative of the municipality open up for specific groups or make it perhaps even more open?
Yes, well, those factors, three, I suppose, at the moment, should work together. We need to, in the conclusion, we need to write down about, it is not only one of those factors that defines the conclusion in terms of, sort of emancipatory or, sort of reactionary or, creating new vulnerabilities. So it is, it will be perhaps top down, but more enabling, right? So it is because it assumes and in the ground zero or how do we say, like in the beginning stage, it assumes certain organizational capacities of the community, but if the community does not have such capacity, in the Izmir case, they came out from different cities, and they were immigrants and living in refugee conditions, right? So there is you cannot assume such capacity, organizational capacity, bottom-up capacity, but therefore the other sort of top-down regulations, top-down actors, municipalities, perhaps in this case, or university in perhaps other cases, it has to open more space, it has to empower, and perhaps sort of stage by stage retreat from the management of the land, so that the community can manage it on its own. So it will be, in this case, it feels like what we observed is it is municipality providing whatever the needs the community has, or the needs that the municipality think they need. So in that sense, it seems like it is not opening space for the community to self-organize. So yes, it should not be the only criteria, and those different criteria should play with each other. So that will be our writing up process in the conclusion, or maybe a section with regards to how those factors play together. Yeah, thank you.
And a follow-up question, did you also look at these former gardens in Istanbul, which were put away for doing more neat gardens for the new neighborhood there. This would be a counter argument against like this my question before, but did you also look at the?
We haven't, but we recognize that we will need a little bit more field work because it happens to in all research. You go there once and then you ask the questions you have in mind, and in writing it up, in sort of theoretically and analytically, you realize, okay, if I want to argue this, I should have asked this question. I should have looked at this aspect. So those things come up. So we will have a second round of field work, and that would be perhaps, we would have to spend more time in each of these gardens, and perhaps those variations, especially in the Istanbul case, since it is a large plot of land, it has different stages. Some of them are no longer community gardens. We have seen it, the sports complex, high-rise residential area. So it is eating up, the city is really eating up the community gardens, and perhaps those stories. I don't think it could fit in this article, but how they lost it, how they, the different factors played out in those things should be also a matter of issue, sort of the issue of an inquiry.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, wonderful. Let's thank our two speakers today. Okay, thank you all for joining us online. We will end the recording now. Okay.